A good thriller movie can take your mind off the anxieties of the world and put you in the shoes of people with way bigger problems than you. Whether the threats they're facing are deadly, supernatural, or imaginary, these thrillers on Netflix will keep you busy for a while.
You talking to me? You talking to me?
Everyone knows the line, and its source is 1976's Taxi Driver, a film that critics have spent decades hailing as one of the best films of all time. Travis Bickle can't sleep, and when he can't sleep, he drives his cab. He has no friends and he can't connect with women. The increasingly paranoid Bickle sees nothing but hostility around him, and his reaction is to arm himself for a one-man war against what he sees as a crumbling society around him. Taxi Driver is a powerful and absolutely essential film directed by Martin Scorsese, featuring early work by acclaimed actors like Harvey Keitel, Jodie Foster, Sybil Shepherd, and of course, Robert De Niro. If you haven't seen it, see it. If you've already seen it, odds are you wouldn't mind seeing it again. For most of 2016's The Invitation, you're not sure what's real and what the characters are imagining. The film stars Logan Marshall Green as Will, a man still traumatized by the death of his son. He and his wife Eden divorced after their son's death, but Will still accepts her invitation to a dinner party hosted by Eden and her new husband, David. Will doesn't know what to make of his ex-wife's weird behavior or the other eccentric guests, but he's sure there's more going on than just a party. The rest of the film unfolds entirely at the dinner party, with the guests acting stranger and stranger. Old friends make shocking confessions, and Will's paranoia continues to mount. Mentioning many more details would give far too much away. But we can say The Invitation is a fascinating slow burn that plays with our social boundaries, seeing how far the hero is willing to go along with the facade before finally cutting through the party's expectations to find out what's really going on.
I don't want to spoil anyone's fun. This just isn't my thing.
Claire, please.
Just let her go, David. Why can't you just leave?
No, but this has nothing to do with Seth Rogen, James Franco, or North Korea. The interview we're talking about is a 1998 Australian-made thriller starring Hugo Weaving as the impoverished Eddie Rodney Fleming, who's dragged into a police interrogation room for reasons unknown. At first, the police don't give Fleming any idea why he's there, but it slowly becomes clear they suspect him of being the culprit in a series of slayings. Eventually, we learn that as much as the detectives are doing their best to keep Fleming in the dark, unbeknownst to them, they're being monitored as well. Aside from some flashback sequences, all of the interview takes place in the small, dark interrogation room in which Fleming and his interrogators find themselves. He kept guessing until the end about whether or not Fleming is as innocent as he claims, and with the film essentially being one long and hostile conversation, the actors' intense talents get the chance to shine all on their own. 1922, released in 2017, is based on the Stephen King novella of the same name, and could easily be seen as something of a spiritual successor to Edgar Allan Poe's 19th century classic story, The Telltale Heart. Wilf doesn't want to sell his Nebraska farm, but his wife Arlette is determined to leave it behind and move to Omaha. Early on in the movie, Wilf kills Arlette with the help of their son, Henry, and hides the body in a well. After the killing, Wilf's farm suffers some inexplicable calamities, including swarms of rats that just won't leave Wilf alone. Wilf begins to lose his marbles, but the question is whether it's Arlette's vengeful spirit who's driving Wilf bonkers, or if it's the guilt and angst over killing her that is forcing Wilf to see what isn't there. With Stephen King as the author behind the story, you should go into it knowing that either possibility makes sense. Calibre is a simple but smart film about two men who keep making all the wrong decisions. Their first mistake leads to their second, and so on, until they're far beyond the point of no return. Focusing on two protagonists on a hunting trip gone wrong, Calibre is a movie rooted in realism and the complexities of real human behavior. It's easy to imagine yourself getting into a similar mess, which makes what happens all the more gut-wrenching. In the beginning of Calibre, it's Vaughn who seems like the responsible one compared to his friend Marcus. But the next day, it's Vaughn's error that changes everything for both friends, setting a grisly series of events in motion. It makes for an exceedingly watchable movie that garnered great reviews, elevating a simple premise with fantastic execution. In Gerald's game, a woman named Jessie finds herself living through a terrible what-if scenario. After reluctantly allowing her husband Gerald to handcuff her to a bed, he suddenly dies of a heart attack, forcing her into a horrifying ordeal and leaving her trapped in a remote lake house without food, water, or any way to free herself. What follows is a faithful adaptation of the Stephen King novel upon which the film is based. Jessie is terrorized by threats both real and imagined, and is rarely able to tell one from another.
Close your eyes. If there's a monster under your bed, it won't bother you if you're asleep.
Director Mike Flanagan reportedly carried around Gerald's game for years, wanting to make a film based on the book even when he was in high school. His dedication to the source material shines through in his adaptation, but he made an absorbing thriller whether you've read the book or not. Part thriller and part murder mystery, The Most Assassinated Woman in the World is a French-made film about a woman who dies on stage every night, and we don't mean the same way a stand-up comic does. The film is set in the 1930s, when stage actress Paula Maxer earns a reputation of the most assassinated in the world, because of the death scenes her character endures every night in the Grand Guignol Theatre of Paris. After a journalist visits Maxer in her dressing room for a story, it soon becomes clear that Maxer's Most Assassinated title is more literal than anyone realizes. At the same time, suspicion is brewing that Maxer's performances are inspiring real-life killings in Paris. It makes for a surprisingly fun and enthralling mystery about the blurry lines that can exist between fantasy and reality.
Ici, les gens vivent des cauchemars et c'est ce qu'ils veulent. Ils veulent ressentir l'horreur en vrai.
The platform has a stronger element of science fiction than most thrillers and conveys some powerful social messages. The movie focuses on prisoners in a dystopian gulag with a particularly cruel system of feeding its inmates. A platform descends through the facility one level at a time. At the top level, the platform is filled with food, but as it drops to the lower level, the amount of food is never replenished. So while the prisoners at the uppermost levels are all but guaranteed their health, the further you go down, the more likely you'll be left starving. As the film continues, we see what desperate and savage measures the facility's inhabitants are willing to take to keep what they have and get what they don't. The platform is the kind of film you should definitely see once, but you may never want to watch again. You'll appreciate its sharp social commentary and its wickedly dark humor, but it's a brutal and bleak film, and not for the faint of heart. Check out one of our newest videos right here, plus even more Looper videos about your favorite movies and TV shows are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.